Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Big Mouth Live. Let's wait for the people to come in. I was going to say if anyone is going to come in, we've got one viewer already. That's two viewers now. Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? Let's wait for people to creep in. If anyone's going to creep in, welcome to Big Mouth Live. And tonight, John, hi there. Ronnie Dodge, hello, mate. Let's get ready to rumble up. Oh, I love it. That is just sums it all up, doesn't it? Right. Tonight, everyone, we're going to do something a bit exciting. We're going to rank the dceu movies and MCU movies as one thing from worst to best. It's not separate. It's one list. And we're going to count down from worst to best. Should we wait a little bit to see if anyone's going to come in? Because I know what's going to happen. People are going to say, what's going on? What? So we can't do that. There's someone knocking on my door. But basically, I'm here. I'm doing this video. So I have to continue doing this video. So yes, that's what we're going to do when everyone comes in. We are ranking the dceu and the MCU from worst to best. So I hope you're all ready. Can you guess what the worst one in my list is? Ronnie Dodge, just read the Jurassic World article, so pumped for the movie. Yes, so am I. I may try and look for them. If you can put one of them, if you can put the main one, Ronnie Dodge, no. Ronnie, if you can do me a favour, if you can put the article, right, that's got everything on it, on my Twitter, and after we do this countdown, we can read it out together, because that's the thing I didn't do today. There was so much messing around today, I didn't get through everything. Scott Edwards, what's up? What's up, Scott? We are counting down the MCU and the dceu movies from worst to best. You can probably see them here. You can probably see them here. Ronnie Dodge, yeah, can do. Be right back. Thank you, Ronnie. John, I just saw the trailer for Masters of the Universe Revelation. What? What? Any good? Let me check this out. Surely Kevin Smith posted it, right? It looks great, John. Let's have a look, my friend. Let's have a look. Kevin Smith. Surely he's posted it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Right, we're going to check it out right now. I'm going to try and put the volume low so I don't get done for... Oh, God, it always buffers on bloody YouTube, doesn't it? On bloody Twitter. Come off it. Right, let's go. Let's go to YouTube, John. Let's check this thing out. Scott Edwards, worst dceu is Wonder Woman 84. Right, Masters of the Universe. Right, here we go. Time
after time, you try to take...
Awesome! This is awesome! Take back the power. Hi, mate. Sent you the new poster and main articles from Screen Rant. Thank you. I'm just watching the Masters of the Universe Revelation trailer, Ronnie. It looks awesome. Wow. Well, very interesting. Now, it looks awesome. It looks sleek. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the 80s version. I know the 80s version is very basic and dated. They literally use the same sequences all the time and the same music. But there was something so special about that. So that's going to have to be very special to top that for me. Anyway, Scott Edwards, Wonder Woman 84 is the only DCEU movie I felt underwhelmed by. Even then, there's still good stuff in it. That movie doesn't heat up, it doesn't get any good until the last act. The last act is pretty cool and emotional and it works. There's not much action there, by the way. I mean, part of that was the kind of criticism of the first film having action in the end. I still will never understand the criticism of the CGI battle. I think all superhero movies should have a battle at the end, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Ronnie Dodge, I will watch it later, mate. The bottom of my list is 2016 Suicide Squad. Ooh, I kind of like that film. Right, are we ready? We're going to do this now, right? There's only 4 people in the chat, 3 likes. But at the end of the day, I can't wait forever. I mean, I don't get many people in anyway, do I? Sorry about earlier. There was a knock on the door, and I had to ignore it, and it took me out. So anyway, let's focus now. Let's do this. Right. My worst movie out of the DCEU and the MCU, and I'm going to talk about each film as well. And my worst one is Birds of Prey. Directed by Kathy Yan and starring Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. When I first heard about this film, I was so excited. I thought we were going to get something special. I thought it was going to be epic, fantastic. We all questioned why we needed Harley Quinn in a Birds of Prey film, and I think the Birds of Prey should have been allowed to stand on their own, and they wasn't. And taking them out their costumes, not really doing justice. I mean, even in the poster here, even in the picture, they're standing behind her. That is so wrong. Ronnie Dodge, I was between Birds of Prey or Suicide Squad, so they're joint last. Fair enough. So this film could have been so awesome, so awesome. So my opinion, at first, I didn't agree with this. I thought Harley Quinn being involved would be good. But I think the mistake was involving Harley. This should have been an epic Birds of Prey movie, pretty much copy and pasted from the comics because it's so perfect in the comics. Then we could have seen, 4 or 5 bad-ass women, right, doing their thing, seeing their origins, even the cameos maybe from Green Arrow and things like that. But they weren't thinking about the fans. They weren't thinking about comics. All they were thinking about is making commentary on toxic masculinity. And this whole thing about men taking credit for the work of women is the most pathetic fictional thing I've ever heard. So it was really, really bad. And, Margot Robbie should never be a producer on a DC film again. It's despicable. Ronnie Dodge, my next pick is Justice League Whedon version. I haven't got that Blu-ray and I forgot. Where am I going to put that? All right, we'll do that next. We'll still say Birds of Prey is worse than Justice League, though. Anyway, so this film is underwhelming. It's okay. The director had no idea how to do action. Like Patty Jenkins, she doesn't have it in her locker to do action. Now, this woman had to bring in the John Wick director, and even he couldn't save the action in this movie because obviously he was under the gun to do it. He tried his best, but it wasn't in the kind of levels of quality that's from his 3 John Wick movies so far. And so the film didn't work. Robbie picked the wrong director. It was a diversity hire, as simple as that. She's done her own things, and I think with independent films, Kathy Yan's very good. But in terms of a big, high-profile, big blockbuster DC movie, she had no idea what she was doing, and she was the wrong pick. Ronnie Dodge, the action was so bland, I would get more joy out of a plank of wood. A Ronnie Dodge correction would. So this film is my worst ranked movie out of the DCEU and MCU. And by the way, we're not putting WandaVision in and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm not going to do that. We're focusing on the films. So that is my least favourite film. So next we're going to talk about Justice League, which I forgot all about, so thanks for reminding me, Ronnie. I would still put it slightly above Birds of Prey because there are reasons for Justice League having issues. Poor Joss Whedon came in. Ronnie Dodge, Soz Bobcat, if you're here, mate, I respect you. I don't think he's coming back, do you? No, lovely little guy. I liked him, but we just had a disagreement. That's what fans do, right? Never mind. I'm sure he'll get over it eventually. Anyway, right, so Justice League. Yeah, poor Joss Whedon. John, my worst Marvel movie is Captain Marvel. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know where I put that. So, Justice League. Nightjaw, hello again. How has everyone been? Awesome, Nightjaw. So, Nightjaw, you're missing out on the rankings. My worst to best DCEU and MCU movies. We've done Birds of Prey, which is my worst, and now we're doing Justice League. So, poor Joss Whedon came into a cast that didn't want him. He still had to release his film at the same time as Zack Snyder. He had to rewrite the picture and reshoot the picture as well. He never stood a chance. And the biggest blow, of course, that Henry Cavill went off to do Mission Impossible Fallout. He had facial hair. Paramount said no ways he's shaving it off, which I understood. So they had to CGI it out, and that was a problem. Personally, what I would have done, because he's been in the grave for so long, maybe, because he had a moustache, right, in Mission Impossible, CGI a beard. CGI a beard and say he grew it while he was underground, right? Even though he's kind of dead and that doesn't make sense. But I think in the actual animation, in the comics, he has got a beard. So probably that was the better way around it, but they weren't thinking. So they were under pressure, in a rush. But I still think there's elements of Justice League that kind of, for example, when they decide to bring Superman back and Wonder Woman and Batman are arguing, I liked that. It added a bit of drama into things. And when I watched the Snyder Cut and that wasn't there, I felt, I know Aquaman's saying this is crazy, but isn't someone going to say, no, we can't do this. We don't know what we're bringing back. This is a powerful being who could be absolutely psycho if we bring him back. So what Whedon did there was right. I love the race between Superman and the Flash. That was awesome. There was some good things in it. But because of the scheduling, because of the rush and the pressure this guy was under, it was always going to end badly. I think when I first saw the film, I didn't notice the upper lip. Ronnie Dodge, I actually liked that Bruce brought up Steve Trevor. Yeah, it was dramatic. It was interesting. So, because the opening scene with the car keys thing and the kids, I thought was interesting. I liked it because I didn't notice the upper lip CG at first when I first saw the movie. So I thought it was kind of emotional to see Superman with a couple of children. I thought it was a cool idea. I think the first half of the movie was fine. The rooftop Batman stuff was kind of passable. But as we went on in the movie, it was obvious they were using poor green screen backgrounds for the Kent farm. It was too easy. It was too quick. The film simply didn't work, and they should never have went there. They should have allowed Snyder to at least finish one Justice League film, but in reality, allow him to finish his arc. He was going to do his own Flashpoint, so the next creators could start from scratch. Just let him finish. His films would have made more money than Justice League. But after BVS, they were under so much pressure, they didn't know where to turn. Right. Next, no surprise here, Wonder Woman 84 is my next movie in my ranking of the DCEU and MCU movies from worst to best. Wonder Woman 84. Nightjaw, Ronnie Dodge, it was good though. It was very much similar to the Avengers film when they had tensions in the team. Yes, there were elements, Nightjaw, of Justice League that were good and that were good takes. but people are so biased they don't want to admit that. Right. Ronnie Dodge, the best thing about the ending was Come Together song play at the end. Although the race between Superman and the Flash and the Lex Luthor and Deathstroke stuff was great. The Gaming Maniac, I think Bruce's talk with Alfred saying how Superman was more human than him was great. And saying how Superman would get over it from being woken up is like a super Batman thing to say. Yes, again, that's another bit. He was more human than us. He had a girlfriend. He had a job. There was some great stuff in the movie. Joss was under so much pressure. It just wasn't going to be a feasible take on the movie. They should have just allowed Snyder to finish up. Then after his third movie, right, thank you, Zach, shake hands, everything would have been fine. Right. This is my Nightjar. Ronnie Dodge, the song definitely best part of the end. Right. Wonder Woman 84 is my next in my ranking of the worst to best DCEU MCU movies. So, Wonder Woman 84 was an interesting production schedule. Wonder Woman 84 was finished early on, and something really suspect happened. Grace Randolph reported that Wonder Woman 84 not only would bring back Steve Trevor as someone who goes into someone's body. By the way, Grace broke that honestly, and that was true, and that was a concern from the beginning. But even more concerning, Grace broke the news that Wonder Woman 84 was thinking about doing a flashpoint, a kind of a flashpoint. Now, the thing that I heard, and I reported it on my channel, if you can remember, Ronnie Dodge, shame Zach didn't use it, but I understand he wanted to pay tribute to Autumn, absolutely. And so, Grace Randolph said they were going to do a flashpoint. The whole idea was, by bringing back Steve Trevor, that would change the timeline. Now, suddenly, after Grace broke this news, they decided to do reshoots and delay the movie from 2019 to 2020. So I was always very suspicious about that, and I'm very suspicious about that. It looks like Grace was right. So, this movie has a fabulous beginning in Themyscira with young Lily Aspel's Diana Prince. I think she's awesome. I think the Amazonian Olympics are fantastic. It's great. Zimmer's music for all of that is brilliant. And Diana learning the lesson that you must earn what you achieve is brilliant. So I love that. And then we go to the modern world, or 1984, and we have that horrible male sequence. We have the guys watching the women bend over, the aerobics women. The whole thing was an SJW meltdown about men, and it was terrible. Then we meet Barbara Manova. Now, I don't mind the actress at all, and she did her best with it. But I would have thought it would have worked out better if the women already knew each other and they had a long friendship. So when they become enemies, it would have hit harder, like they did on Smallville. The Lex and Clark story hits harder because we get to see their friendship develop. Ronnie Dodge, oh boy, my pick of this spot is Batman v Superman. Don't shoot me. The long version is better. Yeah, I'm not gonna have the theatrical version in my ranking. Batman versus Superman, the Ultimate Edition, is a beautiful movie, and I love it. I even enjoyed the theatrical version, but obviously the expanded edition is fantastic, and you need to see the new version as well. It's fucking brilliant. Anyway, Zach's great in the commentary as well. Anyway, so this film basically drags its heels. Now, Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord is nothing like the comics, but it's actually well performed, and I kind of like the character, and I get the character, and I understand where he's coming from. All he wants to do is please his son. It's a brilliant dynamic between him and his son, so that's okay. But this film drags till the third act. This film barely has any action, clearly again, because Patty Jenkins isn't proficient enough in action, which proves that Snyder ghost directed the first movie. This movie basically underwhelmed me. The stuff with Steve Trevor quantum leaping into the guy's body was ridiculous. It was controversial. She's clearly a Quantum Leap fan and was trying to reference Quantum Leap. She's clearly a Superman Donna fan, and obviously Richard Lester's Superman 3 in the opening when Superman saves the man from drowning in the car and all of that opening sequence. It's pretty much copy and pasted Jenkins' opening sequence of Wonder Woman 84 from Superman 3 and its opening sequence. Nigel, me personally, I wasn't a fan of how 1984 didn't tie in at all to the main timeline. Like, surely Batman would have mentioned it, an event in 1984 otherwise, so the film did feel like it was thrown in. Well, I don't mind if you set in 1984 pre-DCEU, you can get away with that because she's far away from Gotham City. She's nowhere near Gotham City, so it's quite understandable that Batman or any other hero didn't know about this, and Superman and the other people weren't around then. So it's plausible that it's not connected. My issue is this film was taken away so far away from Wonder Woman 2017 because she wanted nothing to do with that film. And that was toxic of her, by the way. She clearly proved by doing this film and running this film that she absolutely has no idea what she's doing. And for me, that was a mistake. Clearly, the studio must have known how unproficient she was and that she had no clue. Jeff Johns co-wrote this, a brilliant comic book writer. I don't know what was going on. Surely Jeff would have been wanted to be a bit more loyal to the comics, but he wasn't. The Maxwell Lord they wrote was nothing like the awesome character from the comics. Jesus Christ, the Maxwell Lord from Smallville is more loyal to the comics. Jesus Christ, the Maxwell Lord from the Supergirl TV series was better. Was it Maxwell Lord? I can't remember now. Ronnie Dodge, I swear the action scenes was longer in 84, but cut down. Well, probably because she messed them up so badly. So this film is incoherent. It's flawed. All films are flawed, of course. Anything made by human hands is flawed. But this film is very, very flawed. And it's nothing like the classic we saw back in 2017. And luckily, we're getting a reboot. Ronnie Dodge, Gal was a producer for 1984 and also producer for the third as well. Well, that's troubling to me because Patty and Gal running another Wonder Woman movie is not what I want. She's a great Wonder Woman, right? That's it. But it doesn't mean I think she should be running these DC movies. So WB need to stop this from happening. They need to stop them from running this movie, and I hope that they do. Right. My next movie in my ranking is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a perfectly fine movie. I don't have many issues with it, but it's unremarkable. It's not a memorable movie. It just does what it has to do. It's pointless in terms of the MCU. I know we get some kind of tidbits. Michelle Pfeiffer's great in it, of course. It's okay, but this film is nothing special. We even get Lawrence Fishburne in this film, right? But I can't even remember half of what happens in this movie. So yes, I wasn't overly impressed with this movie. A big filler movie, and I was disappointed in it. Nightjaw, true, though there would be more evidence for Lex for Wonder Woman being found than a picture from Wonder Woman. Say that again. One would be more evidence for Lex for Wonder Woman being found than a picture from Wonder Woman 1. That's true. So that's that one. I don't have much to say about this one. So next is Ant-Man. So again, Ant-Man, I mean, Paul Rudd is pretty great, but we talk about people not having freedom, artistic freedom and integrity. Well, we know there was an original writer-director to this film, and he was pushed aside for creative differences. I forgot his name. He's always on Twitter reviewing stuff and everything, but his vision was taken away, and Paul Rudd was part of that vision as well. So that was a big shame. This film was entertaining. It was okay. Actually, a better villain than the film, the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I prefer this one. But again, this is a solid movie, unremarkable, and you're not going to remember it. Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 was a big disappointment. Now, Batman vs. Superman is the DCEU's second movie. Iron Man 2 is the MCU's second movie, if I remember rightly. What's a big disappointment? This was nothing like the first movie. It really dragged its feet. It was slow. It had a terrible villain. I just didn't enjoy this film. I just kept on watching it to get to the end. It just was an unremarkable movie. And at the time, a big disappointment for me. Spider-Man Far From Home. And I mean, I'm going to say this about this one and the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU as well. When I saw Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Civil War, I was so excited. We had jokes, we had action. He was like the Spider-Man from the comics. Nigel, I remember being hyped for Iron Man 2 when it was in cinema. Thought it was okay. Exactly. Just okay. That's the problem, Nigel. Yeah. So this is the second one. And as I say, when I saw him in Civil War, he was awesome. Listen, it's a very, look, I think the villain's okay and he kind of works. And obviously you've got the drama of Tony Stark not being around. Still not a mention of Uncle Ben. It's enough, basically, and the big mistake these films make, the villains are always motivated to get revenge on Tony Stark. This is not about Spider-Man. This is not a personal story for Spider-Man. And that's a shame. So, underwhelming. Not terrible, but underwhelming. Next is Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming, again, is very, very underwhelming. It just doesn't work for me. As I've already said, Civil War, he was great. I think the Russos understood how to write Spider-Man more than Watts. I forgot what his first name is, but basically the people doing this film, you know, the Russos really wrote and directed Spider-Man well in Civil War. It was exciting, and I thought he had a great future. Obviously, Marissa Tomei as Aunt May is fucking ridiculous. It really is, and she doesn't work. Happy, they've kind of pushed Happy in this franchise as well. Jon Favreau's got great quality. I don't know why Jon Favreau couldn't direct the Spider-Man films for the MCU. I think he would have done a better job. Again, this is a passable movie. For me, if these two movies were released in 2002 and 2004 instead of Raimi's movies, I think these movies would have flopped. These movies only make money because they're part of the MCU. My next movie is Captain Marvel. Now, actually, Captain Marvel has a pretty good concept. It's a solid movie. We have Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury. We have Clark Gregg's Agent Coulson. It's a pretty solid movie, and Jude Law is pretty good in it. And as Brie Larson does a good job in the film as well. I think it's interesting to see her world and the fact that she's got amnesia. I think the story's solid enough. So I like it. I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's just not as good as the other movies in the list. Obviously, Brie Larson's alt-left comments didn't help the situation, but that's not why it's so low down on my ranking. Right. Thor, The Dark World. Thor, The Dark World, for me, is a bit like Captain Marvel. It's okay. It works. Christopher Eccleston plays the villain in this film very well. We see the death of Thor and Loki's mother, played by the brilliant Rene Russo, of course, from, what was it called? Hostage. Was it Hostage? What was the film with Mel Gibson? That one, anyway. Anyway, that Ransom, that's it. She's brilliant in Ransom and Lethal Weapon. Nigel, I just recall the noise Brie Larson made for the sexist comments before the film came out. Yeah, that was a shame. I wouldn't judge the movie on those comments. I don't think that would be fair. So yeah, For the Dark World is interesting. It has some interesting things in it. But again, it's just another unremarkable MCU movie. So, the original Thor movie. I think this movie's pretty good. I think it's solid enough. The fans didn't like it. This was in the time when Marvel fans were very concerned about the leadership of Kevin Feige, of course. So I thought this was a solid movie, a great introduction to Thor, and a great introduction to Loki too, and that universe, and Asgard. Casting Sir Anthony Hopkins as the father was fantastic. Rene Russo was great casting as well. It's good. It's solid. Again, it's unremarkable, but it's a good introduction to the Thor universe. My next film in my ranking is Shazam, directed by David F. Sandberg and starring Zachary Levi as the titular Shazam. I really think this is a fun, entertaining film, a mixture of emotion. comedy, and actually some scares that David F. Sandberg has got a history in doing horror movies, and they did it well. At times, you can tell the budget is low with the special effects, but ultimately, this is a great movie for families and children. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorite DCEU movies or comic book movies, but it works. Ronnie Dodge, Shazam is in my top 5 of DCEU movies. Wow, interesting. So, yes, I like this movie. It's not so low down because I hate it. It's so low down because I feel there's better movies in front of it. And I'm sure you're quite welcome to disagree with my rankings, by the way. This is not a dictatorship, but that's where I'm putting Shazam. A perfectly passable action, adventure, comedy about a young man who's been moved from foster home to foster home. It's a good movie. Ronnie Dodge, it's number 5. So, we go to Iron Man 3, a very controversial movie that came after Joss Whedon's first Avengers movie. This was at the time when, just after Avengers, people would basically, you could spit on someone, and if you called it an MCU movie, people would still go and watch it. Iron Man 3 is actually a very action-packed, exciting, entertaining movie, but unfortunately for the fans and what they did with the Mandarin, and the whole thing with the Mandarin was hilarious. It works in the film, but it was a betrayal. Of course, we will see the Mandarin, I think, in one of the Phase 4 movies or TV shows, apparently. But yeah, it was disappointing for fans. But actually, this was a really exciting action-packed movie, and it would be Robert Downey Jr.'s final Iron Man movie. I think the only really good one, if I'm honest, is the first one. But this was pretty entertaining at the very least. Avengers Age of Ultron. Scott Edwards, are there any spin-offs of Smallville, The Vengeance Chronicles? I don't think so. You're talking about the Chloe Chronicles, aren't you? That was on the DVD. So no, I don't think so. Nigel, wasn't Iron Man 3 the last Marvel film Paramount made? Thought it was all right. Yeah, that goes to show you, doesn't it? Avengers Age of Ultron. Again, this was Joss Whedon's second foray into the Avengers universe, and this one was more his baby probably than the first one. I think he had more people shepherding him with the first one. That's why it was a lot better. But actually, this film is really good. Apart from what they do with the Hulk and Black Widow and her calming him down and all that shit and the love story between them. Scott Edwards, I love Age of Ultron. Yes, I actually like Age of Ultron. I think Ultron's a great villain. James Spader does a great job. I think it's a personal story for Tony Stark because he creates this. And we get the introduction of Wanda and her brother, of course, Pedro. So I think it's a really good movie, but a lot of people actually don't like this. This film was the final Avengers film for Joss Whedon before they sent him packing. I wonder what was going on there behind the scenes. Ronnie Dodge, I definitely love Age of Ultron, but when we got that Justice League movie, Nigel, personally, Age of Ultron was now in the coffin. I really didn't like the humour, neither. What they did to Ultron. Do you know what? I can barely remember the movie, to be perfectly honest with you, Nigel. But I remember Ultron, and I think it was an okay movie. It wasn't terrible. And they always use the bad movies to have consequences for the other movies, like what happens in Civil War, which is actually quite interesting. They always kind of save the movies that are not so loved. That's interesting to me. I mean, look at The Incredible Hulk, for example, a film I really adore. Right, Doctor Strange. Again, Doctor Strange isn't on the higher echelon of my list, but it doesn't mean I don't like it. Doctor Strange is a really good film. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the character really well. It's a great introduction to the Sorcerer Supreme and his origin story. Ronnie Dodge, I did like it. Started the rift between Tony and Steve before Civil War. Exactly. Yeah, I like that element. Nightjaw, true. So, yeah, Doctor Strange, it's a great introduction to the Sorcerer Supreme. It really works for me. I love the ending when they keep on repeating things. It's actually a really good film. I love the characters. I think that Tilda Swinton is brilliant, even though the casting was controversial. Scott Edwards, cannot wait for Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. Neither can I, directed by Sam Raimi. It's going to be awesome. Ronnie Dodge, Doctor Strange is great. Yeah, I really enjoyed Doctor Strange. It was a great kind of, they departed from kind of the usual MCU movies. There wasn't actually a lot of humor in this film. That really helped it. It was just focusing on Benedict Cumberbatch's character. And it was, as I say, a great introduction to the Sorcerer Supreme. Again, it's one of those films I don't remember a great deal about it, but I do remember thinking it was okay. Right, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, a lot of people had issues with this film. I think this film's very, very good, by the way. Peter meets his father, who turns out to be a villain. I thought Kurt Russell was sensational in that role. I think there's fun in this. It's just as fun and action-packed as the first film. So I thought it was quite enjoyable. And, of course, the Yondu's death and all of that was, his sacrifice was beautiful. The music was great. The mixtape was great. It was still kind of, it had everything the first one had. Obviously, the original stories, the characters getting to know each other and the theme of them being misfits really worked as well. So I actually thought this was a really, really good movie and I enjoyed it. But in a lot of ways, it's another unremarkable MCU movie and the first one isn't unremarkable. Problem is with Volume 2, it's basically Volume 2. Scott Edwards, Endgame, Thanos evil, but Infinity War, Thanos was more ambiguous. That's a good point. The Gaming Maniac. Did you watch Loki yet, Mick? Yes, I watched the first episode of The Gaming Maniac. I did review it on this channel, and I did say that I found the pacing very slow, slower than a snail, Loki's greatest hits, and I'm hoping the pacing is better. Not sure I like Loki becoming a hero, but obviously there's multiple versions of this character in this series, so they can sort that out like that. I've actually got a little prediction for Loki. Would you like me to tell you what it is? First of all, I think the TVA are very, very authoritarian. And I think that they punish people who don't even know they're doing wrong. The Gaming Maniac, yes. So, this is my prediction. By the end of this series, Owen Wilson's character will die. Loki will take his position, and in Secret Wars, Loki will join Nick Fury. He will have second billing with Samuel L. Jackson, and Loki and Nick Fury will be fighting the Secret Wars. What do you think about that theory? Scott Edwards, Endgame Thanos didn't experience the cost of what Infinity War Thanos went through. Listen, I've always said this. Killing off Thanos from the beginning of Endgame and bringing in someone who hasn't experienced all that was so annoying and ridiculous. It was a bad take. Endgame was solid enough, right? And the end fight was okay. But the stuff they built up in Infinity War was beautiful. And to give us that, a Back to the Future ripoff, I thought was kind of cheap and despicable. The Gaming Maniac, that's super interesting. I really hope it goes down that road now, lol. Well, if it was me, that's what I'd do. I mean, because Loki, this is his redemption story. I'm not sure if I agree with him having a redemption story, but it's his redemption story. So wouldn't it be amazing if Owen Wilson, the only man at the TVA who believes in him, in the end, he takes his job and he fights the Secret Wars with Nick Fury. So that will be exciting. So that was Guardians of the Galaxy, a good, passable, enjoyable movie, but nothing more than that. Captain America, the First Avenger, Scott Edwards, Chloe and Clark are my favourite Smallville characters. They're very good together, especially now she knows his secret, yeah? So I wouldn't say, obviously, Clark's my favourite character. He's Superman. I think out of everyone, it's got to be Lex and Lionel that I really love, though. They're the ones that, you know, the interesting aspect of the show and all of that. So, anyway, Captain America, the First Avenger, again, it was at a time when Marvel fans had a lot of distrust with Kevin Feige. But I think this is a great introduction to this character. Nightjaw, Infinity War was much better than Endgame, I agree. It just felt they didn't know how to go forward, so they introduced the time travel, which killed it off, in my opinion. Yet, do you know what I think? There shouldn't have been a second part. Infinity War actually could have been the 3-hour movie instead of Endgame. 3 hours, just over 3 hours. But they wanted another kind of box office, didn't they? So they cheated people, and everyone has a kind of a masturbation episode over Endgame. But to me, it's not all that. So, Captain America, the First Avenger. As I said, this is a brilliant introduction for Captain America. I think Chris Evans is sensational in this movie. I love the introduction of Bucky and that friendship and how Bucky always takes him out and protects him. It really sets up what's going to happen in the next movie and in the future of their relationship. Ronnie Dodge, give Snyder when credit is due. I think he would have done a better job with Darkseid in JL3. Well, his Darkseid was awesome in his Snyder Cut. Just imagine what he would have done. Listen, I want to see those movies. I love Snyder's DCEU movies, and I'd love to see, because what he does well. Ronnie Dodge, shocking. I said something nice about Zach Lowe. Yeah, it's true, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think you like his films, and I think you understand it was a great take on the DCEU. It's just a shame he couldn't finish his arc. Scott Edwards, so you think Loki will be good guy moving forward? Well, it's interesting because if he stays in the TVA, those multiple versions of Loki will always be revisited. So there'll always be an evil Loki out there. But yes, this Loki is going to be redeemed, and I predict he will take over from Owen Wilson's position and fight with Nick Fury in the Secret Wars, and that's going to be fucking awesome. Imagine them two having to come to terms with working together and the fun that could be. Ronnie Dodge, I love his movies, but I think he should take the offer on HBO Max. So do I. That's my theory, by the way. But yes, listen. At the end of the day, his Justice League movie was fantastic. His Man of Steel movie was fantastic, and his BVS movie was fantastic. And you know, if he did ghost direct Wonder Woman, what a great movie that is as well. So Nightjaw, definitely, there's still a chance for his Snyderverse. I'm hoping for it. Do you know what, Nightjaw? There's always a chance. Who knows what happens when Discovery comes along? So, yes, I hope that can happen because it's just a shame because the setup's there. So, as I said, Scott Edwards, I think they're building to an all-out battle with Kang for next big event film. Maybe. So, Captain America, the First Avenger, Ronnie Dodge, it's a multiverse. It's an Elseworld story. So, there is a chance, exactly. So, Captain America, the First Avenger. I really enjoyed this film. It sets up so much. It's such a great self-contained story. And you really feel the struggle and determination with this character to be more than the small, slim young man that he is. He wants to fight in the war. So I love that element. They just really justify this character's position. So when he becomes Captain America, it's amazing to see him bulky for the first time and have power. And as soon as he becomes Captain America, he's got to chase after a villain. It really is great. And Peggy Carter, when she gets jealous and annoyed with him and shoots his shield, that was a hilarious moment as well. I think the whole film is amazing. And I'm very surprised that more Captain America fans and Marvel fans don't like this film because I think it's pretty awesome. We've just been talking about this film, Avengers Endgame. It's pretty loud. It's pretty low on my list, right? Avengers Endgame is a perfectly suitable movie. Scott Edwards, do we get to see Clark officially become Superman in Smallville? You do kind of, look, you will see him become Superman. You will see him fly. You will see him save the day as Superman, but kind of blink and you miss it. You will not get a close-up of him in the costume, but you will see like a distant shot of him as Superman. That's what I'll say. I think it's okay. Let me know what you think of the finale, because when I first saw it, I was so angry. But now after I've settled down over it, I think it was okay. Ronnie Dodge, I would love to see Clark inspiring the army of man, Amazon's Atlantis League, to take on Darkseid. Exactly. It would have been fucking epic. It would have been better than Endgame, I'm telling you. So Endgame is what we're talking about. This film came off of a brilliant film, maybe one of the best MCU movies, one of the best comic book movies. And basically it said, we don't know what to do next. I know, let's keep on making jokes about every time traveling movie and TV show and let's go back in time. Now, of course, without this kind of, what do they call it, plot, forced, contrived plot, this contrivance, we wouldn't be getting Loki now, would we? Which is always a good thing. But for me, this film didn't need to exist. They just needed to, extend Infinity War a little bit. So that's how I feel about this. I think a lot of this film is wasting time. The final fight is okay. Tony Stark's death is compelling. But ultimately, for me, this is a very, very underwhelming film. It's one of the most successful films of all time, obviously, because it came after Infinity War. But for me, they could have done a lot better than this. Killing off Thanos and then giving us one previously Thanos didn't work for me. That was underwhelming as well. They made some very piss-poor decisions in this movie. Ronnie Dodge, after Endgame, the MCU has been going downhill for our gain as a DCEU fan. Definitely. I think the MCU, I mean, let's not forget, we haven't really seen a movie yet. So it'll be interesting what Black Widow does, what was it, The Eternals does, Spider-Man Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's see what they do with that one. That's when we can really judge the MCU after this movie, Endgame. Nigel, Endgame, in a nutshell, let's slag off Back to the Future because we clearly don't know what to do moving forward. Laughing MOJ. Exactly. It was just, it was obvious these were a bunch of people who had no fucking idea what to do, but knew, because everyone loves the MCU and loved Infinity War, this would make money, even if it was Superman 4. Even if Nuclear Man was in this movie, this film would have made money. Now, this is a film I really, really like. It may not be my top 5. This is Ed Norton as Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk. Ronnie Dodge, it did confuse the hell out of me, but I'm excited for the new movies to show what they mean. Scott Edwards, I consider the Arrowverse crossovers a standalone series you can watch from Flash and Arrow. Oh, yes, it's interesting, because when I introduce people into Arrowverse, they find the crossovers confusing because they can't see all of them in that one series. So that's a bit of a problem explaining that to them. Scott Edwards, all the way to Crisis on Infinite Earths. So The Incredible Hulk is the next in my ranking from worst to best of the DCEU and the MCU. I think this is a great take, but then again, I love Ang Lee's Hulk as well. Ronnie Dodge, the Cisco exit was lame. What the hell? Oh my God, they're just dancing and break dancing. They decided that a fluffy ending to that character after being so awesome for 7 seasons, that will be it. It's embarrassing. I feel sorry for the actors. I feel sorry for the people who have to execute this stuff. It's so bad. Todd Helbing is really proving what a great writer he is on Superman and Lois, and since he's gone from The Flash, it's been terrible. I really like The Incredible Hulk. I think Liv Tyler is brilliant. Ed Norton and Liv Tyler have got great chemistry. Unlike some superhero love interest relationships in the MCU nowadays, this is still classed as an MCU movie. Night Job, personally, I have a soft spot for the original Hulk film, mainly the films pre-MCU. Yes, Ang Lee's Hulk is a really good film, and I enjoyed it. I like the way he tried to make it look like a comic book and split the screen. It was interesting. Ang Lee's a pioneer. Ang Lee is literally the Zack Snyder of the MCU. Scott Edwards, who was better villain, Anti-Monitor or Thanos? That's interesting. I think Thanos had more depth and build-up, but I think the Anti-Monitor was pretty cool as well. I think if we compare Crisis to Endgame, I would say the Anti-Monitor. If we're talking about Infinity War, then I would have to say Thanos because of the stuff with Gamora and all of that. Ronnie Dodge, I feel sorry for Grant. Hopefully he is in the Flash movie. I think he will be. Definitely. How excited is that movie going to be? So, yes, I really enjoyed the Incredible Hulk movie. I thought he had everything. And, of course, he's got an equal villain to fight in this movie. He's got, he's got a creature similar to himself. It's really, really good. I love that we've got Thunderbolt Ross in this movie. He's great as well. I think this movie really works. And what a shame that Ed Norton and Kevin Feige couldn't get along. But Kevin Feige doesn't like anyone who has ideas above their stations. Nightjar, Scott Edwards, depends on which version of Thanos. Exactly, Scott Edwards. I think Black Widow will be a great MCU movie. Fingers crossed. Ronnie Dodge, who would you like to kill? Decide. I mean that word. I mean the JL2 or 3. Ronnie Dodge, who would you like to kill? Decide. I mean, I don't understand that, Ronnie. So yeah, I think this is a much better version of Bruce Banner in the Incredible Hulk than we've seen in the MCU since. I think Ruffalo's okay. He's a very talented independent actor. He does indie films, but for me, this is the better version of the Incredible Hulk, and I really enjoyed it. Jesus is a go. I'm thinking about buying Blade on 4K. I love that movie. Then if you can afford it, you should definitely buy it. Scott Edwards. A lot of people hated the Anti-Monitor, but I thought he was cool, bad guy. No, I liked him. There wasn't no problem with him as far as I was concerned. Ronnie Dodge, what League member would you like to kill Desaad in the sequels? Oh, right. He's a worm, isn't he? And I like him for it. Batman. Maybe. Oh, the Flash. The Flash would be interesting. Ronnie Dodge, if we get them. Yeah, I think the Flash killing him. The Flash doesn't really kill, though, does he? I actually believe there's always a hope. There's always a chance. Right. Iron Man. This was the first movie for Marvel Studios, and what a groundbreaking movie it was. To cast Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, a man who had been in prison for drug use, was a very controversial, high-risk situation, but he certainly was born to play Tony Stark. For me, Robert Downey Jr.'s best ever performance was as Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin is one of the most amazing movies ever. And why he wasn't even nominated for an Oscar for that film, why he didn't win the Oscar, is puzzling. That's his greatest performance. And since Chaplin, really, he's been just taking the money. This is why he did this job, just by taking the money. And he kind of looked, after he got out of prison, I suppose he didn't have many options. He took the MCU gig. He didn't know it was going to be as big as it was, but it ended up making him very big and basically an A-list actor. But apart from Iron Man, he hasn't really done anything that substantial before or since. But Chaplin, when he dies, for me, Chaplin is what I will remember Robert Downey Jr. for. Robert Downey Jr. for. Now, Jon Favreau, who was once predominantly an actor turned director, did a great job. He plays Happy in the movie as well. Jeff Bridges gets a lot of shade for his what's it, Stains, whatever that character is. But I actually really like Jeff Bridges' performance as the villain, Jedediah. Is it Jedediah Stains or whatever his name is? Right? Could have been worse. It could have been Seaman Stains. Jesus is a goat. 10 now. That's gangster. Oh wow, 10 likes. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Jesus is a goat. So. Yes, this is an excellent movie. It has comedy. It's serious. It's, before it all blew up and became so popular, I think this is an excellent movie with excellent action, with excellent emotions. Pepper Potts and Tony Stark's relationship and romance is fantastic. I love the way she boots one of his women out of the house as well. I thought that was hilarious. I thought this was a really, really good film. I wouldn't say it's one of my best superhero films ever, but it really worked. And they did a great job, and it's a great kind of lead into the MCU. Nobody would have thought this was going to be the first movie, but they didn't have rights to Spider-Man. So this is the decision they made, a very interesting decision that could have gone either way. Scott Edwards, Obadiah Stane, that's it. I actually thought that Jeff Bridges did a good job with him. I thought he was a great villain, but a lot of people don't agree with that. Scott Edwards, where did you rank Captain Marvel? Oh, Captain Marvel was ages ago, mate. Let me tell you. Hang on. '28th. She's 28th on my list. So where are we now? Next on my ranking is David Ayer's Suicide Squad, a movie, considering it was edited by a music video company and reshot and rewritten. I actually really like the Suicide Squad. Nightjaw, shame the characters who was meant to play as War Machine was replaced in the second film actor-wise. Thought he was okay, but that will always confuse me to why they replaced actors. Well, they replaced him because Trevor Howard was basically sacked by Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. didn't like him and got him the sack. So next time you see them talking about positivity and compassion, remember who these people really are. So Scott Edwards, Captain Marvel was a solid film. Excited for the sequel. Well, in my description, when I was ranking it, Scott, I said it was a solid movie as well. I don't hate Captain Marvel. It's certainly not one of my favourites. So the Suicide Squad, for me, is a really good movie. Now, this morning we were reading an article about how the editor said they changed the introduction. Instead of gradually, introducing these characters, they did that whole thing at the beginning. I actually think they got away with that. I think it was okay. I don't think it was messy. Some people called it messy and didn't like it. I thought it was good. It was just different. They were just trying to make it pop, right? Because they were reacting to BVS, basically, and the toxic reaction to it. I think the Suicide Squad has got a great cast. Scott Edwards, love Suicide Squad. You've got Will Smith, Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, Joe Kinnaman, Viola Davis. This is a great movie. And obviously, I actually think, despite everything, Jared Leto was a great Joker in it. He was different. Yes, he wasn't Heath Ledger, which was the main problem for people. But for me, he worked. Now, the reason they cut his scenes, we heard from the editor today, was that he was rambling and doing so much crazy shit, they couldn't use it in the movie. So how do you put that in the air cut if you ever release it? That's a problem. This film has great action. I think the villain's okay. I think the Joker should have been the villain, and even David Ayer admitted that. Ronnie Dodge, what I loved, it took place after Clark's death. Exactly. It worked. What about the opening statement? Superman changed the world when he flew across the sky. He changed the world again when he didn't. There's so many mentions of Superman and his death. We see Batman a few times as well. That moment with Will Smith's character in Batman is so compelling with the little daughter as well. Brilliant. Ronnie Dodge, I would love to see Wonder Woman catching Slipknot. There, that'd be fun. Scott Edwards, I will lose my shit if the haircut is announced at Fandom. Yeah, I don't think so, but that would be amazing, yeah. Yeah, so as I say, we've got a brilliant, this is to date, now I'm not talking about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I'm talking to date with this and Birds of Prey, this is the best version of Harley Quinn. I really enjoyed her, I thought she was great. Her and Will Smith played off each other so well. I think the characters kind of played well with each other as well. The characters worked for me. Really, I would give this film maybe a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a pretty good movie. I never thought I was going to love a Suicide Squad movie because I don't know the characters so well. Anyway, I don't understand why they put Suicide Squad at that time in the DCEU. No one understands that. It has no connection to Zack's arc either. Ronnie Dodge, to be honest, the main focus at Fandom will be the multiverse, definitely. Nightjaw, Suicide Squad was all right. I liked Harley Quinn in it. And Will Smith, though Jared Leto was definitely not the best Joker. That being said, he was compared to Heath Ledger's Joker, so it was a bit unfair. Exactly, Nightjaw. Nightjaw on Leto's part, exactly. So, in closing with this film, it was enjoyable, it was fun, the music was great, the performances were great. There's nothing in this film that I actually don't like. And Joe Kinnaman actually was one of the standouts in this film as well. His relationship with Will Smith's Deadshot was really good as well. And you're really going to like him in the James Gunn's The Suicide Squad as well. Ronnie Dodge, I give it 6.5. That's fair enough. Black Panther. Black Panther was a really, really good film. Scott Edwards. I think Starro is an interesting villain choice for Suicide Squad movie. Wait till you see him. Yes, Black Panther. I think 3/4 of this film is sensational and a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And I thought Chadwick Boseman was amazing. I thought the whole cast was amazing. I thought the story was great. until we got to the third act. Even though I loved The Phantom Menace, the last act reminded me of The Phantom Menace and Jar Jar Binks trying to save the day. It just seemed like they were trying to reprieve the villain and blame racism for his actions. And for me, that was rather cheap. Ronnie Dodge, I'm excited if Rick is going to have a fling with Harley. I don't know why they suit in my opinion. Nigel, I think the haircut will redeem the film, though. I would hope so. I mean, I like the film as it is, but I certainly want to see David's version because I'm certainly intrigued, if nothing else. So, yeah, as I say, Black Panther is a pretty good film. I don't think it's as good as everyone else says it is, but I think it's good and it's a solid MCU movie and a great introduction to the character. What a shame we've lost Chadwick and we won't be able to see him play Black Panther, T'Challa or T'Challa. That's how you say his name, right? But I think it was a really, really good film. And as I say, I never liked the third act. I think the third act actually cheapened the movie. But apart from the third act, I really liked Black Panther. And it did what it needed to do. And obviously the first black hero in the MCU, always very important. And they did him justice. So where are we? Oh, here we are. Ronnie Dodge, overrated in my opinion. Black Panther, the third act, definitely. Captain America, Civil War, which really should have been Civil War. Should have been Avengers Civil War. Jesus is a go. Wasn't Starro JLA's first villain in the comics? I'm 75% sure that's accurate. I think you're right, Jesus is go, definitely. So Captain America Civil War is basically an Avengers movie, but this movie really is all about Captain America's, Steve Rogers, and Bucky's relationship. You see, I got the idea for my Superman script by having, Metallo, John Corbin, in the middle of this struggle and Superman being pressured to have to kill him with this story. Because this is the same for Steve Rogers. Everyone wants him to, does he back his friend? Does he back the Avengers? We've got the Slovakia, what is it, the Slovenia, whatever, the Accords. There's these new rules for the Avengers. Something terrible happens at the beginning of the film with Wanda, and there's an explosion, and things go wrong. This is actually quite a good film. I like the darker elements of this film. Ronnie Dodge, the CGI was a bit dodgy. What, in Civil War? Ronnie Dodge, Starro was the first villain for the League. Nightjaw, definitely pretty good film. The film was very much like the game Ultimate Alliance. So Civil War did a lot of good things. First of all, it introduced Black Panther brilliantly and put him in the middle of the action, wanting to go after Bucky for his father's death. Then as I said earlier, Tom Holland's Spider-Man Peter Parker introduction is his best time in the MCU. When I saw Spider-Man and Peter Parker in this film, I thought, wow, I don't need to worry about Tobey Maguire anymore. This kid has pulled it off. This is great casting, great writing, because I believe the Russos had a better handle on this character than John Watts has in the first two Spider-Man films. And so I enjoyed that, but I like the element of the Avengers versus the Avengers and everyone, my throat, the Avengers, splitting up, and the whole thing that's splitting them up is Bucky, because he's the Winter Soldier, but, he's kind of come out of his thing. And, of course, the ending, when we find out he killed Tony Stark's parents, is very compelling. The worst thing about this film is having Zemo as the villain. Now, Zemo was great in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but in this film, he was a very underwhelming villain. And I'm shocked to my very core that they used him. Nitro, I was honestly thinking when I saw Spider-Man, no, let him be in his own universe. Interesting. Well, you've got a Marvel universe, you've got an Avengers universe. You would expect Spider-Man to be part of it, I suppose. So, really, all in all, this came out in the same year as Batman versus Superman. This film rips off a lot from Batman v Superman. Captain America and Tony Stark fight, right? It's over Tony Stark's parents, right? They ripped a lot from this movie. Some people think Feige knew about BVS because Feige was obsessed with BVS. He admitted it. He was very, very worried about BVS being a success. This is why he did Civil War. This is why he went down this direction. So a very interesting movie, obviously a lot more successful than BVS. I don't think this film is as good as BVS, but it's certainly an interesting film. It takes a dark turn. It works for what it's trying to do. I think the airport hangar fight is awesome. So I think it's a really good movie. My next film is Thor Ragnarok. Ronnie Dodger, I wonder if they're going to officially change from the DCEU to the DC Cinematic Multiverse. That would be the DCM. Yeah, that's interesting. They tried, when Walter first took over, they tried the worlds of DC and it didn't stick. Probably the DCEU will always be the thing. But yeah, the DCM would be an interesting one. Could it stick though? Maybe I'll start using it. The DCM doesn't have the same ring to it. I'd have to get used to it. So this is Thor Ragnarok. So the other two Thor films aren't very popular with Marvel fans, but this film is much beloved. Now, Taika Waititi came in to do his first MCU movie, and this film really worked for audiences. Now, I'm going to be a bit controversial here. The only reason I actually like this film is because the Hulk's in it. He talks. He fights Thor. Every time the Hulk's in this film is awesome. Apart from that, I just think it's another ordinary, kind of fun, lighter version of the Thor character. And the only reason I love this film is because of the Ronnie Dodge. Gonna go get my dinner. See you later, mate. See you later, Ronnie. Thank you very much. So yeah, Nigel. He preferred the other Thor films and Ragnarok. Yeah, I don't think this is particularly a great film. Everyone thinks it's the best one, but I think the only reason that Ronnie Dodge, try to catch you before you go. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much. Yes, so Thor Ragnarok basically is an okay, solid movie. It's a lot more lighter and funnier than the other two. But as I said, the only reason I enjoyed this movie is because of the Incredible Hulk. And without him in this movie, and not even when he becomes Bruce Banner, he's shit as Bruce Banner. He's such a beta male, isn't he, this Bruce Banner? What a shame. But Hulk, when he's Hulk in this movie, this film really shines. John, I held a rumour that they are going to recast Cyborg with a younger actor. Maybe, but, you know, Doom Patrol have their own Cyborg. We could always use him. Nigel, Ronnie Dodge, see you later. So, my next one on my ranking of the DCEU and MCU is, of course, the very first Avengers. This is the film that changed everything for Kevin Feige in the MCU. Instead of being a franchise that was frustrating a lot of fans, it became the best thing ever. This changed the MCU. They haven't looked back since. This film is much beloved. When it came out, people thought this film was awesome. It was really the first live-action superhero crossover, big budgeted, and it really works. I think it's good pacing. Loki's a great villain. It works for what it is. I still don't think this is my favourite film of all time in terms of comic books, but people really like it. And it certainly is enjoyable. The thing is with this film, these characters earn the right to cross over because we already saw them in their individual movies. And I think that's part of the reason this film really works. And if you were to ask me what I prefer between this and Zack Snyder's Justice League, I would say Zack Snyder's Justice League. But this is a really good, you know, central blockbuster, and it appeals to the broader audience, and it ticks all the boxes. So this is a historic film, by the way. And as I say, without this film, the MCU wouldn't be the bestest ever. Here is the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's next on my list. Let me just check the time. It's the next on my list. I think this is a groundbreaking film. I think this film really kind of refreshed the MCU. It was very different. James Gunn came in and did a great job, wrote and directed it, and for some reason got the total freedom to do this. I think it's because Feige had no idea how to do the Guardians of the Galaxy, but wanted to use them. And obviously Gunn is a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan. He cast Chris Pratt in the central role. It really worked. He had this mixed tape, this beautiful music, the action, the characters are the best thing about this film. The effects are sensational. This is a marvelous piece of entertainment. And entertainment is what James Gunn does best. The next movie on my ranking is James Wan's Aquaman. John, the actor from Doom Patrol, plays a good cyborg. He certainly does. Nigel, John, oof, that will probably make some noise if that happens. Yes, it will. So yes, the next film on my ranking is Aquaman. This is a brilliant movie. This movie had a lot of pressure on it. It came after Justice League. This film, if this film bombed, that would have been the end of the DCEU and we would have got a reboot sooner than we are getting. But this is a fantastic film. This made over $1 billion. Beautifully cast. Jason Momoa is great in the movie. I think Amber Heard and Jason do well together. I think visually the film is beautiful. I've never seen underwater shot so well. I know it's CGI and green screen, but it's beautiful. It's emotional. It's about a character who doesn't know where he belongs. Is it the surface level? Is it Atlantis? The performance by Momoa when he first goes up to Atlantis and he's looking around with wonder, I think that's great. I think Black Manta is one of my favorite elements of this film. I just think this film, hit all the right notes. It really was a great movie, and that's why it's so high up in my ranking. Avengers Infinity War is next on my ranking because this film is a payoff for the whole of the MCU that came before it. This film does something very ambitious. It's built up and introduced so many characters, and they're literally nearly all in this movie. It really is brilliant how they do this film. The kind of backstory of Thanos and Gamora, all the emotional elements, Tony Stark meeting Doctor Strange was beautiful. The Guardians of the Galaxy being in this movie. It was the mixture of everything that Faye could build up since Iron Man, and it really worked. But I think that Thanos works in this movie more than he does, obviously, in Endgame. Nightjar, true. I like that version of Cyborg. Yeah, he's brilliant. So, I think that this film is a promise. Because, Faye promised what he was going to do from the very beginning. And it must have been very, very satisfying for Kevin Feige to put Infinity War. Infinity War is the rubber stamp that says that all the build-up came to this. This should have been a 3-hour movie. This should have been the end of it. We shouldn't have had Endgame. This is a perfect movie, a brilliant movie. It ends in a cliffhanger. It's absolutely fantastic. The way they kind of display Thanos is absolutely fantastic. We see Loki murdered by Thanos. That is a compelling moment as well. He finally does a heroic thing. So, as I say, it's a brilliant movie. And as I say, it's a payoff of so many years of developing this MCU vision from Kevin Feige. And for me, it was brilliant. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, was a big shock to me because up till now we had light movies, but this movie was dark. This movie also had Black Widow in it and Nick Fury. In fact, they faked Nick Fury's death in this film as well. Robert Redford plays the villain brilliantly. I was shocked that Robert Redford was going to be in an MCU movie, but he really worked in it. This is brilliant. This was the end of S.H.I.E.L.D. And after this, we kind of saw that catalogued in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. If you remember that TV show with Coulson. But yeah, this is such a good film. Again, Chris Evans portrays Captain America, a.k.a. Steve Rogers, perfectly. And, as I say, this film is an espionage movie, really, and it works so well. In this movie, I really wanted Black Widow and Cap to be a couple. I think they work better than Bruce Banner and Black Widow, by the way. I don't know why Bruce Banner and Black Widow were forced together. I think those two would have made a better couple. But still, what a super couple. I like the bit on the plane when he just jumps out without the parachute because Black Widow's put him off. And that's a great moment. There's not much comedy in this film. This is actually as dark as the MCU gets, apart from Infinity War, and it's so good. Nightjaw, Infinity War actually hooked me back into see where the MCU was going to go. Thanos I liked, though the Hulk was butchered in my opinion. He was more of a comedic Jekyll and Hyde than the Hulk. Oh my God, I forgot all about that. What they did to the fucking Hulk and Professor Hulk was absolutely disgusting. The Hulk being scared of Thanos. Do me a favour. But why did they do that? Because you can't have Hulk beating Thanos in the first movie. Nightjaw, though how they killed a lot of the known characters as well in that film, I was surprised they made the decisions, but it was very alluring because of it. Well, as much as I love Infinity War, one thing was sure, that most of those characters were always going to come back. So even though they killed a lot of characters, that never shocked me because I knew they were going to undo everything, like in the Nightmare, in the Nightmare future. They were always going to undo that. So, you know, I never was that shocked that they killed those people off. But yeah, this film is an espionage movie. It's dark. It's brilliant. And basically, it changes everything in the MCU in terms of the bringing down of, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. was a rogue organization. It wasn't full of heroes like we thought it was. It was run by Hydra. And all of that, the Hydra stuff was brilliant. And it really worked. Nightjaw, true, yeah. So, you know, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is just an amazing film. But the best thing about this film is the revelation, because I didn't read the comics and I didn't know this. The revelation that Bucky was the Winter Soldier. When Steve, Captain America, goes to face him and he realizes it's Bucky, for me it was heartbreaking, emotional, and compelling. And from that moment on, I'm so focused on this movie. I relate to it, and I genuinely love this film. And I'm not even an MCU stan. This is such a good film. We are now on our last 4 movies. So, the 4th favourite in my ranking, worst to best of the DCEU and the MCU, is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a great achievement, fought for by the fans and brought together by a pioneering director. This film does something I never thought any film could do. This film really does something unique and beautiful. The idea of Superman screaming as he dies, and that scream going all the way to all these other DC universes, was a beautiful moment, a warning for all these other people, and it was great. Darkseid was amazing in this film, amazing. All the other stuff, the introduction of Martian Manhunter, the Flash was amazing, and Cyborg was the heart of the movie. He really worked. This film in chapters really worked as well, because you knew where to stop if the film was too long for you. But this film had amazing music by Junkie XL. This film is one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen. Honestly, I absolutely adored this movie. It was fantastic. And we only saw it this year. It's actually brand new, considering when it was actually shot. A sensational achievement by the fans and Zack. I love this film, and I'd love to see the other 2 films as well. Batman vs. Superman is my 3rd best movie in my ranking of the MCU and the DCEU. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition, is a wonderful, compelling movie that isn't what you would expect from a Batman character. He kills, he brands people. This was a very controversial move by Terrio and Snyder. But for me, they were trying to tell a story of an older Batman that was going to be taught by a younger Superman that love comes first and sacrifice. And it's Superman's sacrifice that changes everything for Batman. Even though Eisenberg isn't playing a traditional Lex, for me, Lex Luthor actually works in this movie. Nigel, definitely one of the best films, liked how Steppenwolf was comparing it to Justice League, that he was trying to redeem himself after trying to seize power from Darkseid. Exactly, yeah. But this film is special. It's unique. I think it's a masterpiece, and I know a lot of people hate this film. Jesus is a go. Yes, BVS, yeah. BVS, third favourite on my list. It's such a good film. As I say, I know a lot of people don't like this film, have issues with this film, But I think this film is brilliant. It breaks ground. And what did Grace Randolph call it? The shining of comic book movies. And I think for once, I have to agree with Grace. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice introduces Wonder Woman so well. We see Doomsday. We see Lex Luthor. We see Superman being doubted. You know, he still hasn't been accepted. We see these political people talking about what shall we do about Superman. That moment when he saves those people in Mexico, what a beautiful moment. And you hear all those journalists talking. That's amazing. This film is sensational, but my favorite moment from this film is the Batmobile chase sequence when he's chasing after the Kryptonite and Luthor's men. That is the best Batmobile sequence I've ever seen in live action, and probably one of the best things Snyder's ever shot. Nigel, I saw Lex Luthor in that more of an origin of that character, which, to be fair, it works. I think he's not a traditional Lex. I wouldn't have cast Eisenberg, but for me, it certainly works. My second favourite DCEU MCU movie in my ranking is Man of Steel. Man of Steel, of course, is the first movie in the DCEU. A lot of people have issues with it. Some people love it. I think this is a brilliant modern-day take. Written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, this is a brilliant modern-day Superman movie. It's a myth put in reality. And it's very, very interesting because the villain in this film doesn't want world domination. He just wants to keep his people alive. Now, it's a kind of a pure kind of thing he's doing, but also he doesn't care about killing humans. He wants to turn Earth into Krypton. I thought Jor-El was perfectly cast as Russell Crowe. The sequence he gets on Krypton is sensational. Krypton looks beautiful as well. I like the idea of Kryptonians being cloned as well. That's genius. The action in this film is on another level. Nigel, yeah, definitely the best scene. Definitely close to the Batman fight when he tried to save Martha. Oh, yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? The choreography there is sensational. Yeah, so Man of Steel is the first DCEU film. Superman's my character, and I think this is a great movie. When I first saw the trailers and the TV spots, I said to my brother, surely this film isn't going to be this fucking good. But it was. Bryan Singer got criticised for not enough action for Superman Returns. When this film came out, they complained it was too much action. In Superman Returns, they complained Lois Lane was too young. In Man of Steel, they complained Lois Lane was too old. You just can't please people. This is a compelling, excellent thrill ride, and it's like coming off a drug when the film ends. This is a sensational movie. But the hardest thing in life is to do something that's never been done, because the only time we saw this character was in TV. And what a great makeover this character got for her first feature film. Yes, my favourite film in my ranking of the DCEU and the MCU is the first Wonder Woman film. This is an amazing, emotional, compelling, action-packed movie that's pretty much a love story, and it's great. Only love will save the day. This film is beautifully written, beautifully directed. I don't know who directed this film. That's what I'm going to say to you. Nigel, honestly loved the reimagining of Krypton. It hooked me into Superman. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. Now, obviously, Richard Donner couldn't do that in his day, and he gave us a great Krypton, but Snyder's Krypton is sensational. Wonder Woman, this was her first movie. It was brilliant. Gal Gadot works as Diana Prince and Wonder Woman. There's some few and far between comedy moments that work, but mainly this is an emotional kind of journey of discovery for Diana. It's such a beautifully made movie. And as I say, I can't put my hand on my heart and say Patty Jenkins is responsible for this movie. I think Zack Snyder is more responsible for this movie than Patty Jenkins. The evidence, Wonder Woman 84. But this is my number one movie in my ranking because I think it's perfect. It hits the notes. Most people loved it for that reason. It's not like it's being cowardly and it's not taking risks. This film takes a lot of risks, but everything they gamble with pays off. This is the most beautiful, emotional, brilliant CBM I have ever seen, and it's my favourite out of all the MCU and DCEU movies. Wow! That's been an amazing ranking. Richie Mo, now then, Mick, how's Tricks? You've literally come in as I'm about to say goodbye, Richie. Tricks are all right. We've just ranked the DCEU and MCU movies, and Wonder Woman 2017 was at number 1. Nigel, definitely a good film, though Ares' fight isn't the best, which is a shame. Do you know what? That fight wasn't really about the physicality, Nigel. That fight's about trying to lure Diana to the dark side, and she chooses love. That's the idea of that fight. Richie Mo, Wonder Woman 2017 is inspired by The Little Mermaid, and the emotion shows. I'm not much of a fan of The Little Mermaid, and I think The Little Mermaid's a bit more, oh, I just want a boy. This is more of a journey of a discovery. Anyway, whatever the truth of it, Richie Mo, I'll rewatch, brother. Okay, Richie, I appreciate that. Sorry that you missed us tonight, but I hope you enjoyed the show. It's pretty much been a countdown of all the MCU movies and DCEU combined together. It's not a separate countdown. It's a ranking from worst to best, and I've really enjoyed doing that tonight. But right now, I've been here for an hour and a half. My voice is really tired. It's croaking. And unfortunately, I have to go. I will be back at some point tomorrow with the Big Mouth Daily Live. And then I'll be back tomorrow evening at the same time at 6:30 p.m. UK time for Big Mouth Live. Not sure when the Big Mouth Daily will be placed tomorrow because I might have to go shopping, which could postpone things for it. But it will happen at some point tomorrow, I promise. Richie Mo, I've seen it on a comparison video, and Patty said it too. Yeah, I wouldn't trust a word what Patty says. I don't even trust that Patty Jenkins. I wouldn't even trust that Patty Jenkins had much to do with this film, even though she's named as the director. Just look at Wonder Woman 84. Richie Mo, where's Bobcat? Bobcat isn't here. Never mind. At the end of the day, Richie, and look, I have nothing against Bobcat. He's a great lad. I haven't named my cat after him. But at the end of the day, right, I'm passionate about films and TV, and I will give my opinion. You can give your opinion. Now, maybe I shouldn't have laughed at the fact that he said Spider-Man, Homecoming and Far From Home are the best Spider-Man films he's ever seen, or maybe the best Marvel films he's ever seen. I couldn't help it, though, because from my point of view, I can't understand how anyone would think that. So I have my opinions. I'm passionate. He has his opinions. Everyone, I'm a fan. I'm not a cold-hearted presenter. I actually care about this stuff. So that kind of thing is going to happen a lot on this channel. Anyway, follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. Richie Mo, people don't get our British passion and banter. No, the Americans' humour is very, very dry. And our humour is very sarcastic. It's mocking. Our humour is actually mocking. We don't mean to be rude about it, but our humour is mocking. Who remembers the New Statesman? Rick Mail, Alan Bastard. It's mocking humour. That's what I'm like. I'm British. You get it, Richie. Nightjar. Okay, mate, I'll try to watch tomorrow, though it's been busy days with work. All right, whatever you can do for me, Nightjar, I appreciate. Nightjar, true. So follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. Back tomorrow at some point with the Big Mouth Daily Live. And back tomorrow at the same time, same place for Big Mouth Live. Until then, thank you very much for your support. I hope you enjoyed the countdown. And if you rewatch the video, you can comment with your honest opinions of my rankings. Ronnie Dodge, hello. Am I too late? I was just about to say goodbye. So Ronnie, hello and goodbye. Ronnie Dodge, see you tomorrow, guys. Richie Mo, good night, Mick. Good night, Richie. Good night, Ronnie. Thank you for making the effort for coming back. Sorry it's too late. But basically, I can reveal to you that my top 4 rankings of the DCEU and MCU were in this order. Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, and number 1 was Wonder Woman 2017. So now you know. Nigel, Ronnie Dodge, see you tomorrow. Right, see you tomorrow, everyone. See you tomorrow. Back tomorrow. Until then, goodbye. And thanks for the love and support. Till tomorrow, goodbye.